What's happening, Gramps?
Sound check. Not much. How are you?
Doing well. It's been well, you know what? I would say this. I feel like I'm like hyper focused on like building a few things out right now. So it is definitely a time of, I mean, it's exciting. I definitely don't always have the most efficient hyper focus on something, but you know what it is? It comes down to, I think, having clarity around what it is that you're creating or doing. I think I'm there right now, which is nice.
Like a sense of purpose.
It's a purpose. It's a why.
Yeah. Awesome. And you're making a difference. That's what I would say. At the end of the day, you're making a difference, and that's fantastic.
Oh yeah. You know what's tough sometimes is the idea that it's like building out products to then like launch is always a there's just a lot to do ahead of time, and then it feels as if it's like, the reward is just on the back end, which is all about how walking is too. I feel like, right? You don't get all the benefits right away.
No, I had this really, really great thought, and then I had to get off the sidewalk so I didn't run into somebody. No, I was gonna say we bring all things love, business, and relationships together. Trying to remember your tagline, and
Yeah.
I would go back and look at my career and my path to where I'm at today. Took one of those crazy things where I went and worked for quite a few startups. And I think that's kind of, so when I hear you saying what you're saying, I'm used to, and where I feel my badge of, value comes is I've worked in startups where you don't have a business card that has your, a logo on it. You don't have anything. It's all purely grind and find relationships. And is there a way in through over here? And anyways, it has nothing to do with this conversation or whatever. When I hear you say that in the building, I think a lot of people focus on, and I'm one of those people, hey, this is the end product and I want to do it perfectly, and here's my whatever, and then they go through it and it becomes this monumental thing, and then they're not doing anything. And that's me in podcasting. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, of course. I think it's what I always say sometimes. I always say that sometimes when I'm talking, I don't know always if it's the fact that I like to hear myself talk or just like to hear myself reflect. And I think that it's that kind of time. And I know podcasting is always, can seem like it's so trendy in a way, but you know what? It's a trend that is incredibly beneficial. So it works. I like it.
I'll think about the people that were doing AM broadcasting on the radio, and I'm probably dating myself. That's the thing that you don't ever use on your radio, and became FM radio jockeys, and that migrated, and I was trying to have this conversation about Web3 and advertising and micro influencers and all that with my wife, and I was like, back in the day, they put a Yellow Pages ad. They do certain things that they knew would give them these next steps. And I feel like right now we're trying to figure out what that means. Like what does the next level of advertising mean? And go off on a Gary rant, but the only thing that I think he says that really has any value is like a Super Bowl commercial, because you're going to have 7 million eyeballs or 10 million eyeballs or whatever the number is, or maybe it's $7 million. I know there's a seven in there somewhere, but
Yeah.
anyways, influencers.
Well, you know what we got to do? Take a step back just
Yep.
for a second. We need an update on steps.
I think that I didn't look before I started, and I know how many I did last week. So 33,270 plus.
270 plus. It's coming up.
Yes.
We're all going to see it. Here we go.
There you go.
11, 20, 24. Right? So there we go. We got it. It's in there. It's coming through.
Some of the people that are tracking there, I've got a contest on my pinned tweet, and some people are telling me that I'm trending towards their number. So I don't know what that means, but I'm walking a lot.
Wait, you have other people tracking? Hold on. What are you saying? What is this?
I have a pinned tweet.
Yes.
I think you can still say that on X. And I have hey, what? And this is, I'm going to pause so that you can make sure that the wind isn't stopping me. This is one of those things where we have a very short attention span, but I'm giving away a big prize for somebody that's willing to make a guess at where I'm going to end up in July of next year.
Yeah. Yes.
And so those people that are paying attention, they say I'm trending towards their number, but I think every number I take is trending north towards a number. But
what is the number that you think as you trend towards there? And by the way, you sound very clear. There's no wind issue.
Good.
What is that number that you feel like you're definitely going to end up hitting at July of 2025? I know you have a goal, but
35,000 is the number. There's a couple of V friends that have said things like 35,555, trying to get all Gary's numbers in there.
Yeah.
I think it'll be north of that, just because I know me. The last time when I put this kind of a thing out there, I finished 4 weeks early after having a 3.5-year goal. So I think that I'll be higher than that. Any higher, and much higher, and I'll probably be really, really sore, because I'm walking pretty good. I'm doing like 75 miles last week. Pretty good.
That's awesome. With all that said, well, let's make sure we have this. So as you mentioned, love it. We're talking business. We're talking mindset. We're talking love, right? All that kind of stuff. And we're talking obviously health. We have walking. We actually had a very engaging conversation last week about A1C, blood work, and all that kind of stuff, which I think was definitely good. What I want to focus on is one of your biggest takeaways from your walking. Now, we've talked about this before, but I want to swing back around to it, and I want to get an update on the things that we can push people towards.
Okay.
For anyone that is just checking in, we have a good number of people over here. We got 17 people checking in on My Daily Dads over on X right now. We have 4 people over on my personal one. And then we have Nate in the house as well. So hello, Nate. We want to make sure that we are showing you that walking during the day, a busy lifestyle, being successful in life, movement is not the thing that has to fall back. It's only going to benefit you that much more. So we want people to be motivated. We want to show people that it's definitely possible, but get out and definitely be walking.
Yeah.
With that said, the question kind of comes back around, like, what motivated you to start walking again? But more importantly, what kept you walking? Because you mentioned that it was like an education. You mentioned it's like going to school as you walk, right? You are making walking not just moving your feet. You're making walking a lot more than that. Can you go back through that for me?
Walking's always been something that's been an important piece of my life as I've reflected back. I don't know if walking would be the word I'd use, but movement. As a family, we lived in Alaska. We cross country skied, downhill skied, hiked. Wind's gonna blow my hat off. Spend the summer down fishing. Always active. So being an active person has always been something that's been important in my life and my family. And I think as I got a little bit older and had kids, I got a little bit more sedentary, and I needed the wake up call, and we all get them some way, some shape or form. Mine came in the form of I got divorced and wanted to figure out, who I was going to be when I grew up. Now that I wasn't, back to, we've talked about this a couple of times, identity, right? I was no longer a husband, and I was still a dad, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be, from my work perspective and just as a human. And healthy and alive was, I think, the end goal. And how do I get there? Movement. And so I started to incorporate movement. And I want to say it might even have started off as simple as the fad of Fitbit. If people were putting this thing on their wrist and they were linking up to each other and they were doing challenges, and they were, it was like an early NFT project before it got rugged and everybody left. It was like that in the early part of Fitbit, and it's why I still wear one today, because I didn't want to change. But I think I probably would have been more I would have been more fond of a Garmin now that I'm older, but and the market has matured. But back then, to answer your question, I think the gamification, the loss of hat while you're walking.
What is happening over there? What's going on?
There's people that talk about Chicago being the windy city, but Dallas is way windier than Chicago. Just for the future. But I think it was gamification. It was where I was in my life. It was I needed to start doing things for movement. Those things, and it just kind of came together. And I think I've seen other people do it at different times in their lives or whatever. There's always a catalyst. And for me, it was pants were getting bigger. I struggled with gastric things, all I can remember back in my teenage years of, gastric issues and things like that. So I was really interested in figuring out how to be healthy. And I think as I was looking at it, I'm a little bit older than you are, but we start losing our grandparents, and we have other not siblings, but other relatives that go, and then we have a good friend that has a heart attack at 52 and dies, things like that, and you start to do other things. So I'm way off rambling, but those were all things that kind of built up of I need to be moving, and I need to be not sedentary, because just we weren't designed that way. And then I started, as I said, listening to podcasts and books, and the more I listened and the more I heard, the more I realized I needed to be moving.
Well, no, you are right on where you want to be. And I know that sometimes recovering some of these things is definitely really good. I want to ask one thing before I recap something that you just said. I want you to right now tell everyone, just say something out loud, something that maybe is inspiring in some sort of way, about why you want people to understand your trip around the world, the second lap right now. How can you be motivating someone to say, hey, if you're watching this, why aren't you out walking? You can go out walking. You can change your health right now. Do you have that that gotcha statement?
Well, I mean, everybody is motivated by different things. Everybody, based on the media, I should say something that's very fearful, right? You're going to die if you don't get off the couch and move. I won't want to go that way. I'm more of a lead by the carrot person. I would say, it's, if you look at our brains, it's the most powerful thing in our body, and most people don't realize that. That's why we have habits. Habits are so your brain doesn't have to think or do things, because it burns so much. And I find that I sweat more when I'm thinking than if I'm actually exercising. It's really odd. All that being said, because now I've got painted myself as a weirdo, I would say that your you're a computer and you're a product of your information. And I would just say, go out and start to read and look and investigate and ask questions of those that are older of you. And you'll hear all those stories of, yeah, it was 50 cents to go to the movies, but at the same time, everybody was active there. You know, people were doing things all the time. People, you know, were shoveling snow for their neighbor. I mean, it seems like there was a lot more activity. And this is just me and my view of the world. Our services industry, which has made people lazier and lazier, has grown and grown. So I didn't answer your question. Do you want me to do it shorter?
No. Robbie, it is your mind, your words, and your inspiration. And if that is where you went with your inspiration, I think that that's exactly where it needed to be. What I did want to bring up was this. And again, we're recapping some things that we've talked about in the past, but that's kind of how this goes so we can solidify. We don't learn things once, right? We always kind of subscribe to that idea. But I was asking you and anyone else listening, like, what is it that actually got you walking? I mean, you've started walking and you walked so far, right? And so now it ends up being, okay, is he bored with that? Again, why did he start? Is there something that's going to stop him? Like, why would I want to do what Robbie is doing right now? But you mentioned a few things here. You mentioned the idea of one, kind of like your identity. It's kind of something that you're at right now that kind of keeps you going. But you mentioned being healthy and alive, right? That was one thing that as you got older, you saw people around you. It was the one thing you wanted for your family, for your kids, and all that kind of stuff too. Specifically, you talked about some of your GI issues that I think maybe, I don't know how the walking so much impacted that. I can probably go through some of the ideas about how it did that. But I would just say that was something that definitely got you interested. So, you know, is there something, is it, we talked about last week, right? High A1C, blood sugar, cholesterol. Is it GI issues? A lot of people, I love pushing people. I work with the adult ADHD community sometimes. And that's something where, like, the movement just overall for brain health that we were talking about, right? But what is going on in your life right now from a health aspect that can definitely be that catalyst to get you outside? Robbie had that. That's how he and why he started walking, right? The fat of Fitbit. And I think I heard that and I was like, you know what? A lot of people are gearheads. And so it's just the idea of, do you want to start walking? What's stopping you? What can maybe be another catalyst? Maybe a Garmin, because that's the one that I feel like you wish that you started with, but you know that wasn't happening. But
yeah, something cool like that, or you know, the local shoe store. We talked about a Fleet Feet. You know, they have like running clubs and things like that. I started an Instagram handle where I think I called it Brooks Walkers. Like, walking people are, you know, humans too, because everything's focused around running and that kind of fad. And you know, we've talked about that, and I wanted to be. I was trying to figure a way to make walking cool. So I think I'm trying to get to the same question you're trying to get to, which is, how do we make the change? How do we get more people doing it? And the only way that I have been able to figure out how to encourage people is to just continue to do it myself, continue to be that beacon, continue to be out here doing it, you know, give guys, you know, inspiration, you know, help with shoe questions. People are having questions, you know, I give lessons I've learned, that kind of stuff. You know, I did a world's toughest mudder. I can tell you I failed my 50-mile goal, only got 25 miles in 24 hours because I didn't fuel myself right. I didn't practice eating. So just know, and I know that has nothing to do with the original question, but just learning things, like, just once you start, you get to know your body, and I think that's the greatest gift that I get out of it. But yes, we're back to how do we get somebody started, and I don't know, other than having a inside desire to have change. I don't know any other way to convince somebody to go do something that's gonna not be something they do for, you know, January, and hey, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then by February it's canceled. I'm trying to figure a way to change that.
Yeah, I will say you're hitting on so many great things, though. I know that you feel as if maybe you're not really there on my topic so much, but it's the ideas I feel like your mind is definitely going towards all the things that are keeping you walking, which is huge, right? We definitely want that kind of thing. I think I think people kind of see like, oh, that guy's like walking a ton, but I just want to make sure that it's something that people definitely feel that they are able to kind of like jump into. And if you didn't remember, by the way, Freedom Streakers. Freedom
Freedom
Streakers.
Streakers.
Robbie's Freedom Streakers. I put it up. It's here. Be a Freedom Streaker. Walk with Robbie. It's there.
That was the pose.
That's good.
You see that? I could do it again.
Look at that pose. Why would you
almost like
not want to
Heisman.
join?
I don't have the handout, so.
That's excellent. No, I love it. That's exactly what we need everyone doing. You can be a Freedom Streaker. You can be walking with Robbie right now, but getting that kind of thing. But again, the things that can get someone walking. I think one. This is. Who did I say this to? I know it wasn't you because it was someone who said it recently. I was talking with one of my clients. And I love what she said. I'm gonna set this up really really quickly because this is the same kind of thing. Like I think people are like. I think that when people see something like a live stream for like a cooking show, right? Health eating, whatever's going on. I think people see those like, well, I can't cook right now. And so what's the point of watching it? But I want to remind everyone that whether it's cooking, whether it's walking, whether it's something else, you don't watch to be in the moment all the time. You can be, obviously, but you watch to be inspired. And I want to bring that up because I was talking with one of my clients who they started working with me and like the next week, they got a job. She's like a new mom. She got a new job, but she's working for, and this is an important point. I'm not saying it just for shock value, but she's working with one of the billionaires here in New York City. And I say that because it was somebody who's just running around. There's a lot going on. And when she was talking about some things that she was doing for work, I had asked her, you're definitely seeing a lifestyle because her job was basically an executive assistant for this billionaire for a very famous company. But it's something here where I was asking her, I said, seeing this lifestyle that they're living right now, is there any takeaway from that? Is that affecting you at all? Because you see that lifestyle and then you go back home, right? You're not a billionaire, right? She knows that, and that's nothing surprising or bad to say. But I was thinking, what about their lifestyle is rubbing off on you? Now, she didn't have anything specific to say, but what she did say, which is the purpose of, I think, listening to your story, Robbie, and being here and watching you and just building up that confidence and that motivation to get going. But she said, you know what it is? It's not anything specific. She was just talking about this. She said, it's a little bit of this influence. And she said, seeing human potential is one of the most amazing things. And what she was saying was that watching that lifestyle and seeing the potential that this person, had and worked through and the potential that she has now, it was just life-changing. So from a nutrition standpoint, with me working with her, it was something where she was saying, yeah, okay, I definitely can do this now. I know that I'm a busy mom. I'm a new mom. I can do this. That person showed me how they took, an idea and ran with it, and they became a billionaire. So I think the idea of, watching someone walking, watching someone cooking, all that kind of stuff can be so inspiring, which is the last thing you mentioned about getting started, right? There was the wearables, there was the health interest, but the last thing you mentioned was, I think, the community and the challenges and seeing other people and putting yourself in the circle where you need that. So watching this right now, if you want to walk more, well, it's not about getting out and walking right now if you can, okay? But you will, I know. But the idea is, and I'm talking to everyone that's listening, but just be here and let Robbie be part of your community and pull yourself into this circle, right?
Couldn't have said better myself. I think it just putting yourself in the place. I think I'm going to paraphrase what I heard you say, and she was in the right place at the right time, and she's listening, and she's aware of what we're capable of, right? And I think that's part of the whole thing that kicked me into going from 2,500 miles in a year to closer to 5,000 miles in a year was the David Goggins effect. And that was back to, hey, we are way more capable than anybody wants to give us credit for. And I think the impetus of what I really wanted to say earlier, and my ADD kicked in and I'm remembering now, is one of the things that really pushed me is I wanted to know the truth. I'm seeking the truth. That's really what I'm doing. I'm seeking the truth, and that's
a big statement.
I'm doing that on purpose, and I'm pregnant pausing after on purpose. I'm giving you time to write it down. It's just seeking the truth, and something as simple as the food pyramid. And why, and I'm not going to go off into a religious thing here, but why did I learn to do these things that I don't feel today are good for me health wise? Like, it's back to the input we get in, and then the computer can do with it what it can. I'm seeking the truth because I just have seen enough inconsistencies in what I've been led to believe is the truth that I would really just like to know what it is.
And you think that, and just to tie it back in there, you feel as if the walking is the thing that is helping uncover.
Walking helps me with a couple of things. It helps me to, what you've congratulated me on, go to school. It lets me put in and give some sort of reference. Is that a podcast where I'm listening to someone's, perspective? Is that a book that I'm listening to? Is that, sometimes, an hour and a half of Radiohead while I'm just letting my hard drive go through all the things that I'm trying to figure out, right? Is just something, and I've talked to some people that I respect, and I've listened to people like, I'm going to forget Tim Ferriss's last name, Tim Ferriss, where they have like a song. They'll put on a song and they'll listen to a song for over and over. Well, I've got a song from a couple of people that I've listened to like thousands of times. Like, I've listened to the same song. It's 4 minutes and 10 seconds long. I've listened to it for 3 hours while walking, the same one over and over. And it's not because I'm Rain Man. It's because it lets my brain kind of go, and it gives me the chance. So back to, is walking helping me with the truth? It's giving me the opportunity to listen and input things in, and then the physiology and biology of my body moving, allowing my brain the opportunity to piece together different things. When I would go and I talk to you, if I want to bring it back to our friends that are on Twitter, because that's where a lot of people see this, crypto Twitter, and I just completely forgot everything I was going to say.
I got you.
I'm trying to remember where was I at? I was before I.
You let me know. I'll prompt you.
Thing.
I'll tell you this. I know that walking. This is also the reason why I'm not walking right now, because I know that I want to get back to my notes, and I know that I just I have to figure out a system so that I'm walking with you. Because that was really the first that was our idea.
That was our first iteration, and I think we should still have that as a goal.
Needs to be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my point was that you have the opportunity, the biology, the physiology to work through. And when I was gonna say about the crypto Twitter stuff, is the thing about crypto in my life is I see a lot of people that know about 1.5 inches wide, and they can go a mile deep, and they don't know anything about anything next door. And I mean, what I mean by that is, there is crypto itself, there are NFTs, there are ENS, and a whole thing around how do you domain things. There's all these different areas, and how do they interface. And I think that walking has allowed me to listen to enough information now that I feel like I can turn that on a side, and I feel like I see more, because I see how things interact with each other, versus just be a subject matter expert that only understands one thing.
Yeah, and would you have made the time to do that outside of walking, you think? The answer could just be no, really simply, but no. Like, the walking gave you that time, right?
Yes. I was going to say, when we talked about this a couple episodes ago, I think one of the things that I believe is a barrier is people have gone on a long walk, and I think they get bored. I think they run out of things to think about. They've not been, I don't think people are comfortable with themselves, like in silence. I think we are so used to loud noises and light exposure and all that stuff that I just don't think that having the ability to sit with yourself calmly and not have to be stimulated, that many people can do that.
Well, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I feel like the benefit of the walking, and again, why we want to make sure that we can support people and interest them and motivate them to get outside, get walking, get some steps in, I think is because let's say that someone is having a hard time with being in silence. If you are having a hard time being with silence, sitting still and doing it is probably going to be a lot harder than helping yourself move your body, but be in silence while you have maybe other things and kind of walk yourself into that moment, which I think is just really important. I think that people think that I think that they might think that it's more than it is, but I think that other people kind of think that walking is a lot less than it is too. It's the idea of if you are looking to take that next step, that hockey stick moment, as one of my business coaches used to tell me, if you want that hockey stick moment, it sounds like that type of movement to put your mindset in that place can be just that. And that's kind of what you learned around that first lap around the world for yourself.
Activity. We as we haven't got to it yet, I think, but the reptilian brain, our core, that fight or flight, that survival, that touch the stove and jerk your hand back, all of those reflexes, I think, set us up in a world where if we weren't prepared and weren't paying attention, we could get eaten. And we don't have enough to be, so we create anxiety and we create this fear and we go through all this stuff. And I think if you just went for a walk, you could probably calm your mind a lot faster and be in a better place.
I don't think I could have said it better myself. I think that's great. Well, we're at the top of the hour right now.
I think they know we're coming to the end.
Oh, you mean here? You hear it behind me?
Yeah.
It is.
We're gonna have to do one of those classes together at some point. I'm gonna have to come there and do that with you.
When you are in the city, let's definitely do it. Now, I have to be honest. I'm not usually taking the classes here as much as I used to when I first started. But we'll do it together. It'll be a great moment for me to get back into it. They're pretty intense. It's known as the hardest workout in the city.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't volunteer before I know what's.
No, you're here. You're coming. It's called Tone House. Take a look at it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome stuff, Robbie. Thank you so much. And that's it right now for another episode of Second Lap with Robbie Mattson. But we are here every Wednesday, 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central. So please join us as we keep developing and bringing questions and insights into walking and changing your life. All right.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Cool. All right. See you, Robbie.
Take care.